Welcome to this new Flight Simulator update movie. A few days ago, the second build of the Aircraft Avionics update number 2 has been released in beta stage, right? So it's currently in test phase. It bumps up to version 2, version 1.33.5.0. So it's always recommended to move your content out of the community folder, right? To, I would say, prevent kind of unexpected performance issues, etc. And also, I would say, stability issues or long loading times. Right, that's, let's say, official Asobo recommendations, right? Of course, you can keep them in your community folder, but if you're experiencing an issue, then try to move them out and see if the issue is still reproducible. Still, the offline low bandwidth error message recently, right? We encourage you to roll in this public beta because it's, I would say, adding more logging. It does not contain a real fix for it, but was also part of the initial build. So, first of all, the general bug fixes, right? There's an edit button to the GPU driver requirement for not showing it again. So there is a new feature which checks if the GPU driver is a certain version, and if the version is, I would say, above that version or below a specific version, and there are some known issues, they will tell you, hey, you are running a driver version which is not recommended and could cause issues. And previously, it would simply show up every time, and there was no button to say, hey, ignore it for now, or hey, say, acknowledge it, and then say, go away, I don't want to see it again. But now they've added an option where you can, let's say, make a check mark there, and then you don't see it anymore. Then they updated the GPU crash message to display more information, right? So if there's a crash due to the graphic card, they will display more information, and they're working closely with NVIDIA and AMD to fix those issues. Then there's a fix the bug where having too many installed marketplace content would result in a game being stuck on the checking for update screen, right? So there was a check for updates. That's what it always does. If there's tons of message or tons of content being installed, then it would still hang in that checking for updates forever and ever. The same thing is that there's a fix for a bug where you've got too many content in the community folder, which would prevent the content manager from loading. So it looks like they made some enhancements in that content management area, as well as they fixed an autopilot issue where the autopilot and flight director heading mode now only reverses turn direction if the selected heading is turned past 330 degrees away from the airplane's current heading. That's applicable both to the G3000 and 5000, the GNS, the G1000 and the WT21. Last general bug fix is the FMS. They improved the behavior of the turn anticipation calculation around the AF and the RF lags, whose start and endpoints are slightly offset from the arc, and that's also applicable to most systems as well as the Boeings. Then if we look at the glass cockpits, there are now 3 fixes in it. First of all, there's the fix the bug where sometimes reopening a GTC pop-up using the back button would cause the elements below it not to be correctly hidden or darkened, right? That's something you might have experienced while playing around with that G3000 or G5000 cockpit, that if you selected certain menus, then certain things were not, I would say, correctly displayed anymore. And there's also a fix where the VNAV profile was not displayed to top of descent when still in the departure segment, even if the airplane has reached the cruise altitude and sequenced all climb constraints, right? So that was a specific VNAV issue for the G3000 and G5000. Last fix for this one is to reduce the delay of the TAWS touchdown callouts when using radio altitude, right? Those are the altitudes which I would say are called out when you're, say, close to the ground, and simply say, okay, hey, you're, I would say, kind of on this level. Then the Garmin GNS 430 and 530 also received 4 fixes. First of all, they added the confirmation dialog to activate the lag flight plan menu item, right? That's where you could, I would say, kind of force a lag to be active. In some case, you need to do it as a workaround, right? Because it flies back, but hopefully that's fixed based on the generic fix. And they also added support for double direct to on an existing waypoint to activate the lag, right? So double direct to, not sure what they mean with that, but that's being added. Then 2 fixes. They fixed an issue that could cause the 430 to not load correctly when hot swapped in from being inactive. and fixed some page navigation issues where the right knob push would not close the dialogues. There's also another one, which they mentioned here. Fix the bug causing the time zone offset to always be treated as positive. Then the KAP 140, they correct an issue in the default KAP 140 template that causes the 100 knob animation to be applied to both the 100 knobs and 1000 knobs. Well, that's a nasty issue. Then some new functionality being added as well as bug fixes to both the Boeing 787 as well as the Boeing 747, right? So first of all, they expanded the in-game checklist for both airplanes, which are mostly auto-completable. They added the new settings in the CDU menu where it says, okay, hey, from the index page, you can now set the persistent user settings. That's cool because you can now set up certain user settings. Keep an eye on my channel because I will show it in a new video. It now also supports the heading up mode. It can be enabled via the menu settings CDU page, as well as the ND components fail when data is invalid, right? IRS not aligned. I would say previously you could simply align everything, but it would simply work even if the IRS was still shut down, but they now added support for that. Then also the ND, the display contrast inner knob to adjust the brightness of the weather and terrain layer on the ND map, as well as the CDU modifying the V-speed inputs after at least one V-speed has been entered will reset them and display a takeoff speeds deleted alert. Cool. Also another CDU fix or function which has been added, the V-speed fields will now blank 2 minutes after the takeoff, so that they will remove them, right? Because as far as I read this, and there's the FMC where you can they added destination direct and destination now from the FMC or MCP Altitude intervention. I do think that this is specifically built for maybe a specific reason where you want to directly descend, or when you want to, because that's the descending now, or when you're directing to a specific descent. I'm not sure what this actually 100% is, so that's probably some more work to investigate. Then the ICAS, they implemented the calculated step trim green zone to reflect the calculated step trim from the FMC, as well as they added the cockpit. They enabled the air data source selector knobs, right? You can now select the air data. The IRS, we added time to align message to the ND, right? That's based on the alignment mode, which is now being implemented, as we already saw here, right? There is now also a time which shows you how much time it takes, and they added the IRS align mode CAS memo. And the CAS memo is simply, okay, hey, if you didn't align the IRS, right, it won't work. I think the U needs to be an S, but, well, yeah, depends. Then the systems, they added speed brake custom logic, right? Reject takeoff, arm reverses, auto down behavior. So that's the, say, the auto brake knob, which you can modify, right? And then you can do, I would say, an emergency brake while taking off. And they added an option to configure the IRS alignment times. That has to do with, okay, do you want to wait 10 minutes or do you want to, I would say, align the IRSs directly or another way. Then the OVHD, they implemented the model behaviors for the emergency lights guard and switch, as well as they made some modifications to the flaps, the load relief function and the auto gap function. That specifically is for the 787. The previous one was specifically for the 747. Then two other things for the 787, the Synoptics, they added the air page, implemented air conditioning simulator, and the settings page added settings for change your CalCal option. Then going to the bug fixes and improvements. Well, that's a long list. As you can see, there are tons of fixes in the PFD, some of the CAS messages, and also a lot of issues fixes in the CDU, the cockpit, the autopilot, the VNAV, and then specific settings. I can go to all of it, but I went to it. Several ones have to do with the VNAV, right? Where the VNAV was not correctly. Also, some of the things have to do with the altimeter, which wasn't set correctly. As well as the elapsed timer now won't start at a random high value when spawning in the air. That's when you're creating a flight plan which does start in the air instead of on a, let's say, runway. Then it will use that one. Checklist, they removed some incorrect items. The plan format on ship icon rotation fixed to be heading up. And then several CAS messages, right? The CAS messages are those alerts or messages where it says, okay, hey, these are it's the status of the aircraft. These are the warnings which you need to fix. So what did they do? They added the autopilot disconnected and auto throttle disconnected messages. They fixed the terrain and speed brake false positives. In the CDU specifically, improved visuals for departure and arrival pages and fixed a logic bug with picking approach transitions. What other things? They fixed the program VNAV pages showing midnight as 24XX Zulu, and the drag and trust required messages now only appear when VNAV is activated, so that's good. What other things do they have? Speed transition fields on the client page now default to 250, 10,000. They fix some formatting, some constraints, some incorrect emissive state and tooltips for the MCP, lock and app buttons, and general improvements of the control states. There were some issues with the control states of certain buttons. Then the autopilot, some general improvements. They fixed the behavior of the autopilot engage, disengage, and the auto throttle disconnect switches. The heading mode, that's the same one as in the generic section, as I think, as well as the next one that was also discussed in the generic section already. Then they implement a few fixes for the flight director logic when touch go is pressed with flight directors off. As well as they fixed an issue where the auto throttle arm key event to not work, right? That's if you connect certain buttons or certain peripherals to it, you can connect those to certain actions, and then it wouldn't work. Autopilot fixed wrong altitude capture behavior when pre-selected and a VNAV target altitude are the same, and then a lot of VNAV fixes, right? Improved the behavior when transitioning between paths. Improved overlay, aggressive pitch down in VNAV path. And that was also what I experienced when trying it out. Sometimes when you, let's say, were descending and then activated the VNAV path, it would go really, really fast and really aggressive down. That's now being fixed. As well as they fixed very path computing errors that could occur after changing the active flight plan, right? So, cool things. Auto brake no longer disarms RTO when applying manual brakes. Then some sound issues, some camera issues, and then some specific fixes for the 747 and 787, right? So the 747, the taxi lights are now disabled in the air. They removed the trend vector from the PFD. Electrical systems now won't allow using the external and the APU on the same side at the same time. Yeah, that was also an issue. And electrical synaptics will now separate sides if no crossfeed is necessary, as well as a sound fix. And then, of course, the gas, the added the hydraulics and electrics alerts. Cool. Then the 787. And they fixed the ETA and the altitude flight plan labels being positioned incorrectly on the Xbox. As well as they made some changes to the ICAS with the flaps, secondary engine indicators, some buttons which were missing. The HUD will now declutter symbology is now inhabited from the touch and go. Is the active pitch mode. Then several cockpit fixes where the tooltips were incorrect. Things were not working as expected. So a lot of fixes. So that's cool. Then the FBW is now bypassed when AI piloting is inactive or is active. Sorry, that's something to be aware of. And they added the ground to in-flight transition smoothing to address unusual behavior on takeoff. They fixed some issues where it could result in unusable when the auto-rudder assistance is on. Fixed the bug, fuel gauge center tank quantity warning was shown under incorrect conditions. That's one I also experienced. And also they fixed the bug where the fuel scavenging remained on even after center tanks were emptied. As well as the external power will now turn off to available if any generator starts powering the AC. Some flap retraction issues. Fuel pump states are now correctly displayed, and they fixed a bug where the IRS could begin alignment before the plane was powered on. That's cool. So a long list of fixes for the Boeings, right? After that, we're going to the Cessna citation longitude. Tree fix only in this version. The PFD roll indicator is now rendered using the correct sky pointer configuration. They fixed the bug where the co-pilot PFD had the incorrect split pane in rotation with the enhanced package, and they reduced the sensitivity of the auto throttle to sudden changes in airspeed. So that's cool. And they added some new settings for new peripherals. The Yulman, right? The Yulman arrow. They added some presets now for the joystick, as well as they fixed an issue for various peripherals where the old device with a joystick can now control the cursor. That's cool. And then, of course, some SDK fixes. So I'd say a pretty long list of, fixes, right? So I would say I'm looking forward to test out certain functionality. So keep an eye on my channel. Here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, then feel free to post them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.